Hi everyone. Today is Monday. We only have 3 more weeks left of school. 3 more weeks. All right, so this week you are going to read nothing but Frindle. There's going to be no quizzes for you this week because last Friday there was a mess up with the test on Edmodo. So that is up. So you have to take last Friday's test if you haven't taken it yet. It is up for you to take anytime this week. However, you are still learning and reading, so we are just going to read every day this week. You are going to read chapter 2 of Frindle according to our agenda, and then watch this video. So let's get started. Today we read chapter 7 and chapter 8. Wow. So Nick put his plan into play. He first started it off with it in school in Mrs. Granger's class, just asking or telling her, I forgot my Frindle. Then his friend was also in on it. So as you know, he got his friends to play in with this and only use the word Frindle for the word pen. And so then him and his friend made a big scene in class about how, oh, I think I have a Frindle in my book bag. Let me look. And he found one and they threw it across the room to Nick. So they made a big scene and Miss Granger was a little bit upset about that and asked him not to do it again. And one thing I like about Nick, and especially in chapter 8, you will realize this, he tells the truth. He's not lying about what he's doing to Miss Frindle. He doesn't say, or to Miss Granger, not Miss Frindle, to Miss Granger. He's not lying about what he does with the word Frindle. He's being very honest. We're using the word Frindle instead of pen, and I'm trying to make a new word because she sort of like challenged him to use his problem-solving skills, and that's what he's doing. Or using his critical thinking skills, thinking outside of the box, and that's what he's doing. And he's being very honest. But she's also being very stern about it and saying, nope, you're not doing that. You're not going to create a new word for something that already has a word. So she's putting people in detention. And at the end of chapter 8, we realized she put over 200 kids in detention because every time a kid said the word Frindle, they went to detention. And because there's so many people in detention, the principal had to help out, and had bus drivers come back and pick up the kids. And then parents started to complain, saying that this is ridiculous that they're getting detention for saying the word Frindle when it's not even a bad word. They're just using a slang word for the word pen. And then the superintendent got involved, and the principal had to make a personal meeting with Nick's parents and him at his house. And that's where we ended. We don't know what was said at the meeting. We just know the principal was coming to Nick's house because of all of this chaos that he's caused with just changing one word from pen to Frindle because Miss Granger just didn't like it and she's being firm about it. Now there was something important during all this time. She did ask to speak to him after class, and they talked after class, and that's where he was very honest what he was doing with her. And she said, you know, since you're not going to stop using the word Frindle and tell everybody else to stop, then I have a letter that I wrote to you. But you can't read this letter until all of this is done, until it's stopped. But I want you to sign the letter and date it to show that this letter was already written when you read it, that it's not, hasn't changed, that I feel this way. Whatever I said in here, I already knew on this date that I am talking to you. So I wonder what's in that letter. That's one of our questions this week. So in Edmodo, under language arts class, yes, Lucas, make sure you pay attention. You go to language arts class, you're going to see a question. It says bonus question. And in that bonus question, it's going to say, what do you think the letter says to Nick? What do you think this letter is going to say to Nick? You tell me what you think. Now make sure you also use some good text evidence from the text to help support your answer. All right, you guys, so that's going to be your bonus question for today. So let's get started with our lesson, our checking over our work from today's reading. So today I told you to do chapter 7 and 8, but you're only doing one page for each chapter. Since you read 2 chapters, you're only going to do one page. You're not going to do both pages for the work. So here we go. On chapter 7, I asked you to do page 17. And then on chapter 8, I asked you to do page 20 only. So with page 17, we have the word launch on page 39. Now, when I thought about the word launch, I was thinking the word launch, I said, like to throw because he launched it. So my context clues were saying like, okay, he launched the pin across the room. He threw the pin across the room. So I'm going to say it's the word throw. When I looked up the word in Google, it actually made very good sense what the word meant. So to launch something is to set in motion by a push. By a push. So it's sitting as throwing because I'm setting something in motion by pushing it away from me. So there you go. That is what the word launch means by using your context clues. All right. Now let's go to the next one. The next one says, read each sentence. Rewrite each sentence correctly and then circle the subject and underline the predicate. All right, so with this one, my friends, John needs to be capitalized because it's the beginning of a sentence and it is a proper noun. Nick is also a proper noun. So John and Nick turned borrowing a pen into a big performance. Period goes there. Now it says we need to circle the subject. Now remember, the subject is who they are talking about in the sentence. In this case, they are talking about John and Nick. So John and Nick is the subject. John and Nick. The words John and Nick is the subject. Remember, anything from the subject, from the noun, and in front of it. So John and Nick is it. That means the predicate is the verb. What are they doing? And everything after that verb. So turned. They turned borrowing a pen into a big performance. That is the predicate. All right, let's do the next one. Mrs. Granger. So Mrs. needs to be capitalized with a period, and Granger needs to be capitalized also. That's a proper noun. It's her name. Did not appreciate their contact. Yeah, she did not appreciate the way they interrupted the class over a Frindle. So Mrs. Granger. So now I'm going to circle up Mrs. Granger because that is the subject. That is the noun that we are talking about. The sentence is about. So, and there's no words before the word Mrs. Granger, so it's just Mrs. Granger. And what happened? She did not appreciate their contact. That is the predicate. So anything that happened after that, she did not appreciate their contact. She did. Did is the verb, so anything after the verb is the predicate. There you go. Did not appreciate their contact. All right. Now I am going to clear this and go to the next sentence. All right, the next one. Now this says, let's get inferential. Now this just means using your inferencing skills, but you're not just going to use your inferencing skills and come up with the correct answer. You're going to use your inferencing skills, and this is not stated. You're going to come up with an answer. Like, it's more like a guess in this case, because the answer is not in the book. You had to really think, okay, what's going on throughout the whole entire book all the way up to here. You really had to stop and think. So far we know in Chapter 1 was about Nick. Chapter 2 was about Mrs. Granger. And Chapter 3 is the first day of school. So Chapter 4, 5, and 6 was the first week of school. Like, the first day of school, he got extra homework. The second day of school, he had to come in and do his report. He thought he was going to waste the time. That didn't work. So then the next day, he started to come up with that idea. Over the next couple of days, he's trying to come up with it. He came up with an idea. So then he's like, okay, this idea, I'm going to use this word Frindle. We're going to start it in class. So what day of the week is this? I think this is going to be, and also it says in Chapter 7, at the very beginning, it says, school was perfect, place to launch a new word. And since it was a major historical event, Nick wanted to begin in exactly the right class, 7th period language arts class. So I think that first week, he was trying to figure everything out. He got extra homework. He couldn't waste time. He was he made an oath with his friends about using the word Frindle. So I personally think this is going to be on Monday. This is going to be the first day of the next week. How many days of school is there in Chapter 7 so far? I think, and I could be wrong, but I believe it is Monday and it is the 6th day of school. Now, if you found something different, let me know, because you could have gone back and actually counted all the days, because it says the next day, the next day. So I use my inferencing skills because a lot of it says, like, even this on the report, the next day, which is day 2, and is the report, and you could have gone through there and seen how many days are us. I believe this is on Monday, and it's the 6th day of school. If you found something different, let me know. This is what we call using our inferencing skills to truly think about it. It is not a direct question that has an answer, because it says the next day, then over time, it like skips a little bit, and like it has those dots. So you sort of have to like figure it out and try to infer, and that's what inferring is. Explain your answer with how I found this and how did I figure out my answer. Well, that's what you just have to do. Why do you think that? And I told you, I think it's Monday because day 1, he tried to waste time. Day 2, he had to give his report. And then the next 3 days, he went to school. The next day, he went to school. He was running late, and they're walking on the sidewalk. And then he saw that girl, Janet, saw a pin and on the ground. She picked up, and that's where he got the idea from. So then the next day, he had the kids go into that shop and see if it would work if they went in there and said the Frindle. And then this would be Friday. This is how I think about it. On Friday, that's when it did work. So he had all of them sign an oath. So that's why I think, and sign an oath, and then he was going to start his idea. So that's why I think it is on Monday, day 6. If you got something different, let me know and explain your answer. Like it says in answer 4, I just explained my answer to you, and you should have been writing that down and thinking about it. All right. So writing down your answer. I'm not going to write down the answer because I just explained it to you, but that's how you should be stopping and thinking when you're reading your text. You should be thinking about these things like, okay, what day is it? Where are they at? How many, is it at the beginning of school? Is it at the end of school? You should be thinking about these things while you're reading, because it really helps you understand what you're reading and know the text. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, 5. What did Nick and John do upon entering Mrs. Granger's class? Select all, apply. All right, so they entered Mrs. Granger's class, and this is where he's going to say, I'm going to start our idea. Let's see in her class if it works. So he tells Mrs. Granger that he forgot his pen. He forgot his Frindle. He didn't say pen, he said Frindle. Nick, so A did not happen. Nick asked Janet for a pencil. No, because he's trying to get that word Frindle to be used for pen. John asked Mrs. Granger if he could go to the restroom. That did not happen. John went through his backpack to find a pencil. Yes, John was going through his backpack to help find oh, nope, not pencil. Oop, cross that out. Let's do undo. I just reread that. Not pencil. So that is incorrect. D is incorrect. John actually went through his book bag to find a Frindle, which is a pen. So he wasn't trying to find a pencil. But E did happen. Nick didn't catch the Frindle. John tossed him. So once John found the Frindle in his book bag, he then tosses it to Nick across the room. And then Nick purposely doesn't catch it. So he has to pick it up and make a scene about how this is called a Frindle. All right, so that ends chapter 7. Now, we're going to go to chapter 8. Now, I know we didn't do the other questions because I didn't want you to have to do that much when we were reading 2 chapters. So let's go ahead and go down to chapter 8. And with chapter 8, I asked you all to do page 20. So let's start here. Now, this is where it's becoming serious. She's going to ask, they start off with a class picture, their 5th grade class picture. And in their 5th grade class picture, they all say, Frindle, and hold up a pen here. Where's my pen? Oh, right here. Frindle, and they all hold up a pen, okay? And back then, now remember this book was written in 1966, so 1996. Not a little too old there. This one's actually written in 1996, and in 1996, they did not take class pictures with digital cameras, okay? So back in the day, they did not have digital cameras. Now, if you remember a while ago, Chantel brought in a camera that had a Polaroid camera in our classroom, and she took a picture of all of us with her Polaroid camera and printed it out, and we saw like it on a film. That is the types of cameras they had, film, okay? So when you ran out of film, you ran out of film. It wasn't like digital where you can keep on taking pictures, and just delete and take more if you didn't like the picture. No, they only had film, so you can only take so much, and you couldn't delete it. Once you used the film, you used it. So they're down to the last pictures of film, and they just only had one picture they took of 5th grade, and that was the picture they had to use for the yearbook, and the teachers were pretty upset. Then it keeps on growing and growing, and everyone in the school keeps on using this word Frindle. And Mrs. Granger gets upset and makes a post, an announcement about it in the classes, tells them, and also posts it, if anybody in the school uses word Frindle, they are going to get attention. And that's where it keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and everyone keeps on using it. It makes them want to use it more. So at the beginning of the chapter, what did all the 5th graders do while posing for their class picture? They smiled and said cheese. No. Most of them smiled. Some of them made silly faces. Nope. They all said Frindle and held up a pen. Yes. And D is incorrect. They didn't all point at Nick. Select the sentences from the text that support your answer for item 7. So yes, you have to go back in the text and look for your answer. Because you know it's C, that they all said Frindle and held up a pen. How do you know it is C? Well, if you go back into the text, like you should always be doing, even if you think you know the answer, you should always double check in the text. You will see that it says on page, oops, I'm on the wrong chapter because I was just on chapter 7. Now I go back to chapter 8. This is the beginning of the chapter, so you just look at the beginning of the chapter. And it says, at the beginning of chapter 8, hold on, there we go. It says, at the bottom of page 42, instead, every kid said Frindle. They held one up for the camera to see. That is how I know they said the word Frindle and they held up a pen. That's how I know C is correct. So when you are typing this out right here, or writing it out, you should put on page 42, and the exact words you should put. Instead, every kid said Frindle, and they held one up for the camera to see. All right, so that's your exact words you use to help support your answer. Now remember, when you are answering questions, you always need to support your answer with text evidence. Go back into the text and look for the answer and use those words to help answer your question. All right, number 9. What happened as a result of the 5th grade class picture? Okay, so after we just read that on page 42, you go up here and you see what happened, because Miss Granger was getting upset, and he says, and Miss Granger was furious. So what happened as a result? Let's see. Miss Granger announced to her classes that the word Frindle was prohibited. Yes, it says it right here that, let's see. The day after the class picture, she made an announcement to each of her classes. So there you go. And she posted a notice on the main bulletin board of the office. And then it gives you the little thing of her notice, basically saying that if they use it, they're going to get detention. So it is prohibited. Mrs. Granger phoned all the parents? No, she didn't do that. Mrs. Granger put a written notice up to warn the students? Yeah, that they'll see detention? Yep, she could do that. Mrs. Granger asked to see Nick after class. Yes, that also happened, and that's where he told he's very honest with her. he doesn't lie. He tells the truth. This is what I'm doing, and I'm not going to stop. And he told the teacher that. So yeah, and that's where he had to sign that note saying, okay, well, I wrote you a letter, and you're not going to read this letter until this is all over with. But I want you to sign it to show you that this letter I wrote before the end of all this. So I'm wondering why she wants him to read it at the end to let him know that she already knew what's going to happen at the end. I think that's what it is. She already knew what's going to happen at the end. So she wrote a letter to tell him how this is going to end and dated it today, made him date it and sign it. So he knew that she already knew, that she knows how this is going to play out. Because you can remember, she's a teacher. This isn't her first roundabout with kids trying to get her off task. She's been a teacher for a very long time, so she can probably outsmart him. All right, so let's see. Number 10, what happened during Mrs. Granger's meeting with Nick? I just told you. So I'm going to type that out for you. So I just said it too, but let me retype it. What happened? She wanted him to stop, but he wouldn't. So she had him sign and date a letter during their meeting to show she wrote him something for the end of this. I'm going to call it a Frindle war, because throughout the meeting, he says this is a war with her. Because she can't get off task, we're going to battle back and forth. Not like physical battle, but this is like a non-physical battle. And as you can see, which is, I love this picture that the author and the illustrator came up with, because this is them and talking it out, and she's handing him the letter, saying, you're going to sign and date this. And if you look behind them, see directly behind them is a picture, and he even says it's like when George Washington went to war for the American Revolution, and like they're handing letters to each other, because there's always a messenger that let the other one know, like, we're going to battle at this time, or if you don't do this, then this is what's going to happen. So as you can see, he's making an inference to that war, the American Revolution, and how it's very similar to him battling with Miss Granger. But the only difference is they don't actually physical battle. It's more of a, not silent battle, it's more of a verbal battle between him making a new word and her wanting it to stop. And so she's going to use her authority to stop him, and he's going to try to get around it as much as he can. So, yeah, I thought that was a cool reference that he was making to how he felt about this. So she had him, sign and date a letter during their meeting to show she wrote him something before the end of this. Before the end of this, call it Frindle. So what could be in there? I have no clue, but that's what happened during their meeting. Now, the next one, it says, remember the narrator. So this is going to be the narrator's point of view. Remember, the narrator is a person who tells the story to the reader by describing events and the character's actions. So this is a third person's point of view, because the author is narrating it, but he is outside the story. The person who's narrating this, who's telling us the story, is not inside the story. They're not a character. So it is a third person's point of view. At times, a narrator may provide insight into what the characters may think, feel, and believe. Does the narrator of this text seem to know what any of the characters are thinking? Please provide details from the text to support your answer. And I said this. Yes, I'm going to read you what I wrote. Yes, he lets you know Mrs. Granger is upset on page 43. So you need to go back in the text and find, how do you know how the characters are feeling? What does the author, the narrator, say about the characters in this text? And I found one. I found a couple of them, but specifically, I'm going to give you them. I found that Mrs. Granger was furious. So she was upset that he was not letting this go. He was not stopping this. He kept on continuing the word Frindle. And it even says here on page 43, Mrs. Granger was furious. So that shows you the author is telling me that she's furious. That's how she's feeling. So you might have found how Nick is feeling. Like, Nick is feeling brave. I know he said one time in the text he's feeling brave when he talks to Mrs. Granger. Also, he feels like this is like a battle. So he not only feels brave, but he feels like he's doing something courageous, because this is like a battle between him and Miss Granger, and he's not going to let this go. So there's a lot of feelings, a lot of ways the author puts it in there, how the characters are feeling. And I showed you the one about Miss Granger. I went back into the text to prove my point, which is what you should be doing to prove your answer. Go back in the text and find the exact words. In my case, it said Mrs. Granger was furious. That's what the narrator told us. So go back, look to see when the narrator describes a character, and then write it down. All right, you guys. So this is the end of chapter 7 and 8. Remember, chapter 8 ended where the principal was going to make a house call to Nick's house. So we're going to have to see what the principal says. Before you guys go, I do have a little surprise. And since this week we are doing jokes, like our people on Zoom are going to tell us some jokes, I'm going to tell you a joke. Here we go. Why are fish so smart? Why are fish so smart? Well, that's because fish live in schools. Remember, a group of fish is called a school? They live in schools. That's why they're so smart. All right, you guys. I'll see you later. Bye.